Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Two Girls Talk Transits. Today we're reviewing the astrology from August 2nd through August 8th, and we're your host. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Kaylee.
So we're back with a short week finally to kick off August. August is still really going to be a big month, and I think that's important to keep in mind because, as we talked about from last week with the previous full moon, like we're setting up for eclipse season.
Hmm.
This week is like post that disrupting full moon and all those Pluto interactions and Jupiter, Pluto things going on, kind of recovering from that. And the first aspect is on the 3rd, which is that Monday. Chiron is going to now station retrograde.
Right. I don't think it's like I might have to bump the hours up a couple
Yeah,
days or a couple
it
days
might be
before.
just like the second. I don't,
Yeah.
or
Where'd it
maybe it's
go?
not. Maybe I had it down. The 3rd. Yeah, there it is.
There it is, yeah.
Um, So Chiron, yeah, stationing retrograde in Taurus, I think it's kind of indicative of like a wound that has opened up that Pluto has kind of, highlighted from the full moon with that was conjunct Pluto. And, like maybe a now fear wound or pain point or just feeling of lost or just uncomfortable things kind of shifting in your life. And so this planet stationing retrograde really tends to review some wounds or any kind of pain points that you've maybe developed from the previous interactions, but also with like maybe Chiron and Taurus. And maybe anything that you've been noticing come up in that area of your life of like just something you've not been going as well, or just like a shift or a sudden realization, hey, this isn't as stable as I thought it was. This full moon highlighted something that's like highlighting I don't have security or stability or comfort here in this part of my life.
Right, because like the fixed signs were being challenged, I think, with like the full moon. And anytime like a fixed sign is being challenged, it's like this like addressing stability or things that are normally predictable, things like that. So and also in Taurus, we're like visiting this concept of like what is stable, what is not stable, are things like stable, and how do I feel? And I think, yeah, collectively we are experiencing this big wound around stability, especially with inflation. And I know that inflation is not unique to the United States. Like actually a lot of countries around the world are experiencing inflation. So
Mhm.
that just like challenges our position on Earth and like our the feeling of like, do I belong here or do I not? Like the earth is supposed to be like naturally abundant and provide all these things for me, yet I'm like a slave to my existence here, like I have to do all of these things to maintain my place on earth. I have to be able to clothe myself and house myself and feed myself, all these like really core principles of stability. Um, so
Right.
yeah, I think this Chiron retrograde is like very much bringing up that kind of pain point that's existing. And I could see everybody just kind of like, kind of going down some of those rabbit holes again of like, I can't afford anything, everything's like overly expensive. Nothing feels comfortable. Nothing feels like, it's bringing me like this sense of like belonging or, yeah, like I can exist here freely.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like even though we don't have Uranus here in the sign making things change. Like
Change,
we
yeah.
talked about, like the new normal sucks more. And so like I think it's part of that realization with Chiron here. It's just like the resources lacking. And yeah, like in America, like I think if anything, the recent presidency has taught every other country in the world to not rely on America and to not be as American centric as the world has been. And yeah, I'm curious to see as Chiron transitions more how we like lose our foothold of being like a world power. And
Mm.
because people are don't trust us to do trade with us because we'll just throw a tariff on them. Like so there's definitely a shift and change of that. And I just think like that, yeah, it's just kind of related as to like what the full moon highlighted in terms of like this is a structure that's just not stable and it's just not maybe as comfortable as consistent as you want, and changing it is going to be risky.
Mm.
or
Yeah, for
not possible, you know?
Yeah. I would definitely look to your Taurus house. I think also just a small tidbit. I think also the Mars Venus square like highlighted some of this
Hmm.
too, just
Yeah.
with like Venus being the ruler of Taurus. But I would definitely look to your Taurus ruled house and just like kind of get clear like where are you experiencing maybe some wounds or some things that feel unstable. Like for me, Taurus is my first house and I'm going through a pregnancy and like my body is changing and it's just not your body's not the same like when you're pregnant
Yeah.
and when you're not pregnant. So that brings up like a lot of personal wounds for me about like what I look like and like how people are perceiving me, very like first house wounds. So I think like if you just reflect on the Taurus house just for even like a minute or two, you could be like, okay, like yeah, that seems like I could probably be experiencing some wounds in that area. But Chiron will retrograde back to Aries if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it does. So it is, we are gonna be kind of giving Taurus a moment to breathe. So that will be interesting.
Yeah, it will be interesting because it'll retrograde back to Aries, I think, for a couple months and then pop back into Taurus, going direct. So it'll just be interesting to like revisit also through this like retrograde cycle, um, some of the stuff that we previously experienced with Chiron and Aries. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it sums it up pretty well
Yeah.
here.
Cool. Next thing we have is in 3 days. Actually, we have a really short week, like transit
Mhm.
wise. Some weeks were like packed full of transits, and then this week we only have like three big ones. So besides like lunar transits happening the next couple days, today on Monday when we were talking about Chiron, going retrograde, we had the moon in Aries, and then we'll move forward. On the 4th, the moon will be like wrapping up in Aries and then moving into Taurus, which will be nice. A moon in Taurus is always like pretty comforting and enjoyable. So, I'm looking to see if there's any like major aspects that it's making.
I mean, just the conjunction with Chiron as it enters into Taurus. I don't know when it
Yeah.
enters into Taurus. That might tell you more about that Chiron transit for you as to like what the womb point is.
Yeah, and it'll square Pluto and also square
Yeah, the
Jupiter and the
sun.
sun. Yeah. Yeah, so maybe just like in the early degrees, like the moon moving like first into Taurus, it's not going to feel super comfortable, but I think in the later degrees it'll feel pretty nice. And then on the 6th, we have Venus entering into Libra, and this should feel really nice and enjoyable in general, especially because Venus has not been enjoying itself in Virgo. Venus in Virgo is like very meticulous, very like detail oriented, and Venus kind of wants to just accept and be free and be creative and enjoy things. It doesn't want this like burden of having to sort through all the details of things or just even like the critical air that Virgo has is not very Venetian. Like they don't like this like everything needs to be fixed mentality. It's more so of like being able to enjoy what we can enjoy and focusing our perception on, like it's like a pile of trash is sitting next to your right, but then to your left you have like a beautiful ocean view. It'd be like turning your focus towards the ocean view instead of seeing like the pile of trash, which like Virgo would be fixated on. Like they couldn't get over that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think Venus is in its domicile here. I think Libras in general should be feeling like they enjoy that. Yeah, and yeah, that's pretty much it for just like the transition into Libra. Do you have anything you want to say about it?
Yeah, I mean, I always think it's an interesting journey that Venus goes through in the summer or into the fall, but like wherever it happens around, it's either the summer or late fall, it's around the sun, where, it gets fallen in Virgo and then it gets built back up into Libra and then it gets pushed away again
In
into
in
Scorpio.
Scorpio, yeah.
And so this one moment in Libra is like, you have to take advantage of it. This is your real nice month that you get, and it will actually last a long time because Venus is going to slow down to retrograde in
Yep.
Scorpio in Libra. So we get an extra long transit of Venus in Libra. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
cool. Um, so yeah, this is good for socializing. For the most part, this is the gifts of Venus being in an air sign in Libra as opposed to like Taurus, which is more about material comforts and beauty. This is more about social beauty and socialites and becoming kind of a, force within the social crowd or like interacting with friends or like maintaining relationships, building relationships, all the sort of really sweet things that come into play when you're relating with another person. So Venus in Libra is all about like, two, I just think of it as like the natural notifications of like with Libra season of like fall and harvest and like gathering and the gathering of people together to celebrate the harvesting of the summer and then to also just like that's the point of that season is to build relationships. So yeah, transitioning here is good. I'm happy to have her back into some position of power for some time. I think it will support the Leo season we're going through and just overall make things feel a little bit better if like you are sucking through life, but at least you can relate to it with somebody else. So,
Yeah, that'll be good. I think, yeah, in any case, having like Venus in its domicile feels nice. And I
mhm,
think too, with Chiron moving retrograde, I actually have to look and see how long it takes for it to go in Aries, but I think our Taurus house might be getting a little bit of like a boost and a break with like Venus being over, the ruler of Taurus, Venus being over in Libra.
mhm.
I think we're getting a little bit of like pressure that's coming off at least for a little bit in the Venus ruled houses. So that's really nice nonetheless. But yeah, I thought it was interesting too. Like you talked about the differences between like Venetian Taurus and like Libran Taurus or Libran Venus. We have like Taurus and or Venus and Taurus would be really like, I love all the material things that are around me, like I'm making my atmosphere very
Mm,
beautiful. And then Venus and Libra is like I'm making my social circle very beautiful and the connections that I'm in really beautiful and just being able to nurture connections, I think will feel really nice, especially because like Venus and Virgo could have been like a little bit snappier, a little bit like more to the point, like not
mhm.
really caring so much about building those connections. Um, it'll feel like a nice transition. Like if you've had some issues relating to people over the past couple weeks, I think it'll be a nice transition.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think it will help make things better. I mean, granted, you still have to sit opposite Saturn and Neptune and all of that, but
Hmm.
it's
Well, opposite
something.
Neptune might not be too bad. That might.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I have feelings about Neptune.
Yeah, I get that.
So, also on this day, as the sun is entering, or Venus is entering into Libra, the sun is also trining Saturn in the sky. And so there's an activation of, Saturn again. That Saturn retrograde was so loud too. Did you like
Yeah, it
feel
was.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't it crazy?
Yeah, I was actually surprised. I was like, dang, I didn't really know that this would be so like just stark, I guess.
Wow, saw it everyone and me. Because Saturn rules my relationship, so of course I just saw it in everyone. But it was like, yeah, it was crazy. And I just think that's interesting. And yeah, with the sun trining Saturn today, it's definitely like a revisitation of that Saturn retrograde energy that happened around or right before the full moon. And like what are you reviewing as to what you're building with Saturn and Aries? What are you trying to build and what has came up with that retrograde that was like, hey, this is falling apart now. And the sun can help bring clarity and awareness to it and maybe just like give it a chance to be seen. And maybe when something is seen, you can better understand it and work with it versus when you're just trying before the sun was probably like, hey, I'm just expanding with Jupiter. I don't really give a fuck about what Saturn's doing right now. Um, it's a somber feeling though, I do think That's generally what happens. Like, yes, it's positive because it's clear as to what the issue is, but it's not like this is feels good. It's going to be a challenge to work towards this, or it's going to be more of like, I do need to get more serious with this thing if I want it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've all been doing some like long-term planning, with Saturn and
Hmm.
Aries. That's any like Saturn in any sign. We'll always do like a long-term overhaul of that particular area in our chart. And there's been something that we've really been wanting to work on and change. And, we've been going kind of back and forth with like, how do I change it? How do I make it different? Feeling like really impulsive about it, but not really able to be impulsive. But like the sun trining Saturn, I think will be some of that review. Like, how are we, just like looking back on like, like you said, what are we trying to build? What are we really trying to do here?
Hmm.
And being able to get clear on like, okay, these are the things that I need to like go back and revisit or try to do again, or try to have like a better plan or a better foundation in some way to be able to go where I want to go. And like the sun is in a great spot right now. It's in Leo. So it might be like related to something that you want to do creatively or some way that you want to express yourself. But sometimes we're not really able to do that unless we do take care of some of like the details of it or do take care of like the foundations of it. Like even think about like a great performer. I don't know, like Lady Gaga or something is a really good performer that comes to my mind. She just has like a stage presence, but um thinking about her, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. There's a lot we have to do to get ready for our performance, to get ready for our debut. We don't just like shine with no preparation, so it would be like these preparations that come in order for us to like shine and bring forth creativity in some way.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It is, it's like there's hard work into being the star of the show, into showing up
Yeah.
and being like what everyone wants to be is because you put effort into be the master of it or to be like really skilled at it. And that's just what Saturn is pushing here. It's like you can do all these things. You just need more work into them. And yeah. So that's a big thing. It's not a bad, and I think this is a positive. I do think overall this week shifts into a more positive direction if things were like with that all that Pluto energy from the last week was just like a lot, there's a feeling of like you can get a handle on it. I think that's the energy. I don't think it's like all so great. It doesn't take away the pro whatever the problem was highlighting or whatever
Right.
issue you're working through in your life, but it's a feeling of like I can get a handle on it now.
Yeah, for sure. I do think it's important too to look at like Mars. Mars will be like transitioning into Cancer, so
Hmm.
it'll be fallen there. So overall, like in general, I think Saturn is going to feel more challenged over these
Yeah.
like next couple, like 5 weeks,
Yeah.
6 weeks.
It's gonna
Yeah.
be rough.
Yeah.
It's like something has been shooken up and now you're gonna have a lot of work ahead of you.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And you're going to feel really emotional about it. So
Yeah,
it's going to be
of
like,
course.
yeah. So, yeah. Well, anyways. That's
Yeah.
kind of what
Uh,
happened with Mercury too when it went retrograde, is we
yeah.
just like felt emotional about everything. So,
Yeah. So now everyone's gonna be like taking action emotionally. Can't
mm,
wait.
yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
all love reactive responses.
Yeah. Don't we? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that is this week. We have a lot more coming up next week. Obviously, the eclipse is coming up soon, so we'll talk to you about that then. And if you want more content from us, we're mostly on YouTube,
Hmm.
and we can see us or more from us linked below, and we'll see you all next week.
See you.